up, witches? We're your hosts,
Bree,
Claudia.
and Cheyenne.
have you had anyone mistake you for someone else? Just a familiar face, a clone, a twin, or something more sinister? Today we'll be discussing doppelgangers, origins, literature, and paranormal phenomenon. So how are you guys doing today?
Good. Still getting over that cold.
Yeah, I
Yes,
still
we
have a
did
little bit of
have
a
a little
cough.
spooky holiday break, but we also are, some of us are getting over some being sicky.
Yeah, sorry, I had to pause to cough.
It's all
There was
right.
a
That's
moment
just
where I'm
how
like,
it
I hope
is.
somebody speaks first.
I just paused to see if
How?
anyone wants to add anything.
Oh, how was everybody's Halloween?
It was good. Dressed up as a dinosaur, went a little trick or treating, went out after, had some drinks, and then Halloween was over, which was made me sad that Halloween's over now.
I know.
Mhm. Yeah.
Needed to be Halloween again.
Halloween, we went to see Hades Town the musical, which absolutely phenomenal. If you get a chance to see it, if it's in your town, go see it. Totally worth it. But the weekend before, dressed up as a cowgirl and went to a Halloween party, so that was super fun. What about
fun.
you?
Yeah.
How was Halloween for you, Shy?
So we didn't get that many trick or treaters at our house, which was kind of a bummer. I had a ton of candy left over. I ended up taking it to work, and everybody took care of that problem. But took the kids trick or treating. Um, my husband was supposed to be a plague doctor, but wearing the mask got to be too much. So he ended up looking a lot like a monk instead. And being in San Diego, there's the baseball team, the Padres, and their mascot is a friar. So he got called a Padre a lot all night.
It's so cute. I love
I
it.
know. But he's supposed to be a plague doctor, and then I was going to be death. But for some reason that day, I was just so freaking tired that I took out my handy dandy witch's hat and I was a witch.
That's so cute. Honestly, I love witch hats. They just make anything an instant outfit.
Oh, I
Witchy.
know. And that day, we had gone to the thrift store and I found a $5 shirt, a $5 dress from Torrid, which is an insane deal because it looked brand new, like nobody wore it. And I wore that, it had cute, like, um, what are they called? The long sleeves, not long sleeves. They'd like dangle.
They're like draping.
Yeah, it was cute.
I'm going blank on the names of sleeves. Bell sleeves. Bell
Yeah,
sleeves?
that yeah.
Yes.
I think bell sleeves. Yeah.
Well, I wore my very first inflatable costume, which is fun.
Oh,
Highly recommend.
my daughter's inflatable costume got corroded and she couldn't wear hers on Halloween.
What do
So
you
Oh
mean
no.
corroded? What?
it,
That can happen?
the yeah, it can. So check your battery packs because it will corrode.
Oh, crazy. So you can't leave the batteries in there? I need to go take them out then.
Yeah, take them out. It got corroded, and then the fan wasn't working at all, and so we cleaned it out with some rubbing alcohol, which got the fan to work kind of slightly, not at full capacity, so it didn't fully inflate. So luckily,
Yeah.
she's obsessed with dragons, and we have so much dragon stuff. So she wore a um, onesie that looks a lot like Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh, that's so cute. I'm glad there was a backup plan.
Yeah, the backup costume
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
costume.
Yeah, and just in case I had ordered something that was supposed to come overnight from Amazon, but that didn't show up until November 1st, and I was a little peeved about that one.
Oh.
Mm.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But
Those costumes, you need the fan to work because as soon as it stops working, your costume just like deflates. It goes, like it just like it's over.
yeah,
I'll keep that in mind if I
No,
ever
really,
get.
like, cause mine halfway through the night the fan started not working too, but it was because it was running out of battery. So
Hmm.
another thing to keep in mind is get yourself one of those big packs from Costco batteries for these costumes, because if not, you're gonna deflate like halfway through the night.
Yeah, especially depending on how long you plan on wearing it for. Um, I guess we should probably continue.
Yeah, I have a question for you guys.
Oh, let's
All
go.
right,
All
let's
right.
go.
Have either of you been mistaken from somebody else or ran into anyone who looks something like you or yourself or someone you know?
Well, like I was telling you the other day, um, there's somebody who looks a lot like Bree, but is uh, quite a few shades darker that works at a McDonald's near my house. I had to do a double take one day, and I was like, first off, when did you come to San Diego, and why are you working at McDonald's?
I don't think I've ever seen anyone look like somebody else.
My husband gets it a lot. People will stop him in the street or like will go somewhere and be like, I know you from somewhere. Did you go to this college? And he'll be like, no, I've never been to that college. And he'll list like the colleges he's been at, and people will legitimately be like questioning him as if he's lying about who he is or where he's been. And it's really uncanny. Like it's almost unsettling sometimes by like how people press on because they're so sure that he's someone else.
Oh, that's happened to me too. I don't know if it's because we're white and a lot of white people look the same. Sorry, Claudia.
Jeez, I should have not taken a sip when you said that. Holy cow. I almost flirted that all over my
I
laptop.
was thinking it, but I wasn't going to say it.
But I have had that too. I've had people walk up to me and they're like, I know you from somewhere. And I'm like, I'm so bad with people that I'm kind of like, maybe we've met at some point because I don't remember faces or people's names half of the time. And they'll be like, no, I know you from, did you work here or did you go here or this? I'm like, no.
It's uncomfortable. Like when I've seen it happen to him, because a lot, like I'm obviously there as it's happening, and I just have to like vouch, like no, 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 like we went here, we've
Yeah.
been married for this long, like what the hell? Like as I like question everything, I get home, I'm like, how many versions of my husband are out there?
Apparently a lot, and he'd be doing a lot of stuff.
He'd be doing a lot of stuff. It's wild. But yeah, what I was gonna say with that being, I remember decades ago I read an article about how there's someone just like you, or personality wise, like every 2.5 miles. But it made me like, as I was trying to like find wherever that was that I read, I wound up finding something else that kind of goes into this idea that the average person has around 7 doppelgangers, and so the chance of spotting a doppelganger is 1 in 135. So you're out there somewhere wandering.
That's crazy. Um, I kind of know that feeling because I remember as a kid, my grandpa's wife had walked up to me and she's like, "Oh, I found this picture of you in this one place." And I'm looking at it and I'm like, this isn't me. Like, I never took this photo. I've never gone to this place where you found this photo. Who is this? But this person looked exactly like me. Exactly like me at that age. And it was really weird. And we all looked at it and we're like, what the hell? Um, but then I had never thought about it again. So I have a
Up until
doppelganger out there
now.
somewhere. Yeah.
Don't worry, there's 6 more just like that one.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So diving in. So what is a doppelganger? So its first recorded use was by German romantic author John Paul Frederick Richter in his novel Seinbenkas in 1796. Now, his story is about a sensitive husband who is so extremely displeased with his marriage that he fakes his own death and burial. And how much do you have to hate your wife or hate your life, I guess, to full on fake a death? I think that's wild.
I
even
think it's
wrote the
better than
story.
the opposite way most people do, which is they just kill their wife.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
It's for a true crime episode right there.
Yeah.
But in the footnotes, Richter explains the meaning, and since it's like the first recorded version, he's explaining like so people who see themselves are called doppelgangers. But what was once viewed as being like seen or the seer changed over time, and like literary critics, psychiatrists, and just a general populace now call it the second self or the created version, as we have now been discussing.
Hmm.
So do you
You-
pronounce it like doppelgangers or doppelganger?
I guess you can try to speak German, but I mean, doppelganger, everybody knows what you mean when you say
When you say
doppelganger.
doppelganger? Okay.
Doppelganger, yeah.
Well, the term means ghostly double in German, basically. And it refers to the supernatural duplicate of a living person. In folklore, encountering a doppelganger was seen as a bad omen, signaling an illness or misfortune or even death. It was believed that seeing one's double, whether by themselves or others, indicated something was wrong with their fate or their life force, often suggesting an imbalance between body and spirit. Many cultures viewed the doppelganger as a premonition of tragedy, with some believing it's herald an impending calamity or death. This eerie phenomenon tapped into people's fears about identity, fate, and mortality, reinforcing the belief that seeing one's spectral double could mark the onset of life altering events. So, what type of doppelgangers are there?
Oh, that's a good question.
I know there's quite a few different versions throughout different um, cultures and stuff, but I think we'll cover a couple stories of a couple type of doppelgangers, and if anybody knows of any other kinds and is interested in hearing more, just let us know, or we'll try and look more into it and do another episode.
Yeah, I have like
Um,
concepts. I know that's not necessarily what we'll be discussing or going into, but I think of like body snatchers or like native indigenous like stories. I think of like, oh gosh, I don't remember the name of the tribe, but there's like the belief that there's like everybody has an evil double that lives in the underworld or beneath
ooh,
us. And so like I I wish I could remember which tribe believes this, but I thought it was this idea that there's an evil version of you down below.
scary. That what you're saying reminds me of changelings, where the Fae create an exact replica of, usually it's children, some human, and replaces the human with their Fae child to be raised in the human world. Um, that's what that made me think of. But let's start with the story of John Donne in 1612. Um, English writer Isaac Walton recounts an eerie event experienced by poet John Donne. After dining with some friends, Donne was left in a room by himself. When his companion, Sir Robert, returned shortly after, he found Donne in a altered, agitated state. When he asked him what was wrong, Donne described seeing a vision of his wife with her hair flowing and a dead child in her arms, passing through the room at least twice. When Sir Robert suggested it was just a dream, Donne firmly denied it, insisting that he had been fully awake and that the vision was real, especially as his wife had stopped to look at him in the face before vanishing. This vision came to him the same night his daughter was stillborn.
Ooh. It's like a premonition in a sense for him. It's interesting because, uh, oh, can I? I'm going to dive into the dream section. Is that okay?
Well, there is another story I'm adding that's at the end of these that you can go into the dream, because
Okay.
there's one about Abraham Lincoln. He has a dream, which is like a premonition dream, which I think would be a better transition.
Okay.
Next story is about Vice Admiral George Tryon. He was away sailing, and unfortunately, his ship sank. And at the same time, as his ship was sinking and he was falling to the sea floor, his wife was hosting a gathering at their residence on Eaton Place. Suddenly, to all the guests, they see George in his full naval uniform. He walks across the room and suddenly disappears. Everybody tells Lady Tryon about this, and she's like, "No, he's away at sea. That there's no way you saw him." And unfortunately, the following day, she did hear about his passing and the sinking of his ship. And so, could it have been a ghost?
That sounds a little ghostly, but it could have also been a doppelganger,
Yeah, some sort of doppelganger.
which could also lead into this next one, which, if you guys have ever heard what wraiths are, some people can confuse doppelgangers and wraiths. And for both of Dawn and Tryon's story, they could be doppelgangers, or could this be a wraith? Which a wraith is an undead creature whose name originates from Scottish folklore. A type of ghost or spirit, wraiths are traditionally said to be the embodiment of souls who are either on the verge of death or have recently passed away. So, also a ghost or ghost like image of somebody, especially one seen shortly before their death. So, you'll see them after or just right before someone dies. So in modern times, the concept of a wraith is more likely to refer to an evil spirit, particularly one which has unfinished business in the mortal realm. They are very typically depicted as skeletal figures draped in tattered rags and are most commonly associated with graveyards or any haunted locations. The modern perception of a wraith is that of an entity which actively seeks harm to those that it encounters, no matter their motivation. So, could these have been wraith stories?
Makes me think of a wraith because it says that they show up as like either right before or right after somebody dies. You see their image.
It just makes me think, since wraiths are very harmful creatures, um, why would they be there? I don't know. I just feel like maybe these were ghosts and wraiths actively, it's kind of weird, but they actively hunt.
I think it depends because we were talking about the contextual historical aspect of it
Mm-hmm.
being a modern times vision, which I think the Wraith of like a Dungeons and Dragons version that comes in with its, I don't know, almost Death Eaters type visual aspect
Yeah.
of like a cloak and some kind of scary face versus the original format of not having necessarily a specific visual key elements to it rather
Mm-hmm.
than it being an embodiment of the soul or like the appearance of someone's ghost like image. And when we view it that way, the question becomes when did that culturally shift and change in how we view the term? Which then makes me think that the older version would make sense with like a story that's from the 1700s or
Yeah.
1600s.
Yeah. Because I think this is, I forgot to add the date to our notes, but I believe it's like Victorian age that this story comes from. And I know in more recent times with like Phantasmophobia, Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, the Wraith has become more evil rather than just a spirit or a vision of a loved one or person.
Mhm.
You definitely don't. I was gonna add on. You definitely don't want to encounter wraith and phasmophobia because those particular entities are so annoying in that game. It literally teleports to wherever you're at, or it can like walk through walls.
No,
I
thank
just
you.
want to say it's not fun when you encounter a wraith and phasmophobia.
I don't know. I was looking up wraiths, so I saw some pictures, and the whole skeletal figure and the cloak definitely looks like a Death Eater.
Oh
um,
man.
which I don't want to run into either.
I mean, if you have your Patronus, you'll be all right.
Next, I want to talk about Percy Shelley. On July 8th, 1822, poet Percy Shelley drowned in the Bay of Spezia, Italia is what I was about to say.
Spezia. Just kidding. Don't
Thank
judge
you,
me.
Claudia, who's actually taking Italian.
I took it in college and I continue to Duolingo every day. You are all very welcome. I will be
Yes.
giving a lesson on Friday.
Next episode is going to be completely in Italian. Get ready. And it's just going to be Claudia, and we're just going to smile and nod. Smile and nod.
Perfect.
Anyways, Percy Shelley drowned in the Bay of Spezia, Italy. A month later, his wife, Mary Shelley, and yes, it is that Mary Shelley who wrote Frankenstein, wrote to a friend, Maria Gisborne, recalling a strange claim that Percy had made about encountering his own doppelganger. In June, Percy had told her about a vivid nightmare and visions of a figure resembling himself who spoke to him in cryptic words, saying, "How long do you mean to be content?" The most unsettling part, however, was when Jane Williams, a friend of the Shelleys, saw a figure that she believed to be Percy walking past a window twice on June 15th. She was puzzled as there was no way for him to have returned from that direction without passing by her again. Yet when she checked, he had vanished. Trelawney, who was with Miss Williams, confirmed that Percy had not been on the terrace and as far from the house and was far away from the house at the time. Um, I also read that he had seen a vision of himself standing over Mary. He said it was a man standing over his wife with his face, just staring at her, that he saw, as well as at one point he saw himself swimming towards himself in a dream. Could this have been him with like kind of predicting his own death? I have another story of another historical figure that did have a premonition of some sort of their death, which we'll get to in a little bit. But this experience echoed themes in Mary Shelley's own work, such as a passage from Prometheus Unbound in 1820, where they write of a character meeting his own image, hinting at the eerie intersection of life and death. Now, could Percy Shelley have been seeing his fetch? Do either of you know what a fetch is? We're not talking about Mean Girls here.
Yeah, that's the only kind of
Stop.
fetch I know.
Stop trying to make fetch happen, okay?
It's not gonna happen.
Nobody says that.
So the first time I heard of a fetch was in the book series, the October Day novels. Yes.
My waffles are ready. I'm gonna hit that mute button.
I was like, what the heck is that? I thought somebody got like got a soundboard. I was like, what?
You're waiting for my horn later.
Yeah. I was thinking about getting a soundboard, but I was like, I don't know.
We could just get the one from
Maybe later.
Discord. They have a built-in one.
Um, so there's a book series that I enjoy called The October. It's about October Day. She's a half fae, kind of like, it's kind of like mystery books. She kind of is in some ways like a detective, and at one point, her fetch shows up at her door, and so a fetch is. I don't think they know exactly where they got the term from. Waffles. Lovely.
My bad. Continue. You saw nothing.
So a fetch is a spectral double of a living person, often seen as a ominous premonition, typically signaling the imminent death of a person it mirrors. However, Irish novelists John and Michael Banham noted that if a fetch appears in the morning rather than the evening, it could indicate a long life instead. It is similar to the German doppelganger and the British wraith, in as a supernatural phenomenon that is associated with fate and mortality. The origin of the term fetch is mostly uncertain, but it's believed to be a shorthand of fetch life, kind of like just to fetch the life you have, I guess. Um, Possibly reflecting its connection to the fate of the living. In folklore, a fetch is considered a type of psychopomp. A psychopomp in itself, it just means to guide souls. So, like, you'd think a Grim Reaper or something like that. Could be anything ranging from a spirit, an angel, a demon, or deities. These entities play a crucial role in escorting the souls of the deceased from the mortal world to their final resting place. A fetch is often seen as a harbinger of death, acting as a spectral double or omen of a person's imminent passing, and reflecting the broader mythological theme of the guidance between life and death.
A fetch just sounds like a reaper.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, because you mentioned Greek mythology, like the little ferry where someone would carry you across the river of death. But I guess it encompasses all of those things and more.
Yeah, so it's considered a psychopomp, which is what a reaper would be, and so on. God damn it, Claudia. Is that you? Or is that
I'm
popcorn
sorry.
this time?
I'm
That's not
hungry.
me. I'm home alone. That ain't me.
I have a Wait, what was it called?
Claudia's just making her a fucking whole ass breakfast right now, right?
This week with Cooking with Claudia.
We're gonna have Italian lessons and cooking lessons with Claudia this time.
This week you get it all. There's no running away. We're not editing this out either. We're just gonna keep it in.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it in.
The amount of professionalism that I'm exhibiting today. Beyond.
Just gotta have a
Great
waffle
at
break.
multitasking.
Keeps a positive atmosphere.
Yes. Is multilingual.
All right. So when I saw this this story, it had to be put in here because this one's kind of funny. So by 1864, Abraham Lincoln's face showed the toll of war. With deep lines, dark circles from sleepless nights, no vacation, his sorrow was profound, and he reportedly dreamed of his own death. In the early 1865, he described a dream to his friend Ward Hill Layman, in which he saw a funeral in the White House for a president killed by an assassination. This vision was not his first. After 1860 election, Lincoln had seen a double image of himself in the mirror. One image clear, the other faint. His wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, interpreted it as a sign as he would serve a second term but would not survive it. On April 14th, 1865, Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth and died the next morning. Is this a dream? This one's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Could it be like stress because he was running for president, dealing with all that, and then, but also like a premonition dream. I mean, he had a dream about a president being assassinated, and he had the dream about where he saw himself in like clear versus also himself as being kind of faint.
Well, I know that Mary Todd has been known to have some connections to basically psychic. It was like that, you know. Who else is making waffles?
I'm sorry. I will apologize for that one.
Don't apologize. It's funny. It's just funny. The random ding.
Well, the important part is we all know everyone's fed in this household. Moving back to Abraham Lincoln, I think I see a theme between him and this, like, Percy Shelley's story, as well as maybe not George Tryon. What was the other one? You told one more. John Donne. John Donne, where like they see themselves prior or see some like a vision of death, a premonition of death, but I don't necessarily think of it as a premonition of death in modern context of dream interpretation. But it's interesting to see how it's like evolved over time and how it was perceived in the past.
I see it that way too. It's interesting that his wife would just be like, yeah, something's gonna happen.
Well,
It's
she
just a
apparently
very
was like
precise.
super. She also was very superstitious.
Yeah, I've heard that too. But she also was mentally ill during his second term. So I think that was kind of interesting.
I mean, it's also Abraham Lincoln. He has the most amount of fan fiction for president I've ever seen.
Are you talking about that one with the vampires? I know there's vampires.
There's vampires.
Like they believe that he was like the original vampire slayer.
There's zombies.
Yeah.
So maybe all that extra presidents, vampires, slaying vampires, zombies just got to him.
Could
It
be.
was the stress from all the.
It was the stress from all of it.
He just needed a break.
Trying to free slaves and kill zombies or vampires or whatever.
Freeing slaves by
Cryptids.
day and slaying vampires by night.
Yeah, it's
Like-
a rough job out there, you know. Gotta work the double shift, triple shift.
Good
maybe.
Lord.
But yeah, going into like, okay, so I was kind of mentioning it and going into it earlier, but the idea of like mirror image of yourself, or like, is often viewed as like your subconscious mind or representation or extension of yourself. And so often in the realm of like dream interpretation, divination, viewing yourself in a dream is not necessarily like foreshadowing. Rather, it's like a way for your mind to process an inner conflict, to make a decision, just like self-reflection. It could also be a way to explore other possibilities. So you're not supposed to be afraid of seeing yourself in a dream. It's not a bad omen. It's just, opportunity to reflect. But in all of the cases that you just shared, that was not the case. It was definitely doom and gloom. And I don't know what to do with that myself. I'm going to be a little scared next time I see myself in my own dream.
I'm not gonna lie, in every dream I've had, even my more premonition type dreams, I never see myself. There's things where I know it's myself, but I don't look like myself.
I do want to do a dream episode eventually, but I kind of want to dive into this a little bit because I love this weird, eerie concept of like, I'll ask my question instead.
Okay.
Have either of you ever seen yourself in the dream, like in a reflection, as in like an actual mirror, a body of water?
For me, anytime if I'm looking at reflective services or something, it's always obscured. I never see myself. Like, I never look and I'm like, that's me. It's always like either there's something covering my face or there's just nothing there.
How about you, Bree? Have you ever seen yourself in a mirror or a reflection within your dream?
Not that I recall. I'm usually. What do you call it when you can control your dream once you realize it's a dream?
Lucid
Lucid
dreaming.
dreaming.
I'm a very big lucid dreamer. So once I realize I'm in a dream, I can control it, and or I could just be like, I don't want to dream about this anymore. So it's very interesting once I realized that. I did want to add the fact though that what I was trying to say earlier about Mary Todd, it's a well-known fact that she used to hold seances in the White House. Do you think that had anything to do with all this unfortunate bad luck that Lincoln?
Oh,
Or did she
could
summon
be.
something? Like
But
maybe she
also,
summoned a wraith. Who knows?
yeah, of course, at that time, that was the time everybody was doing seances and stuff like
It
that.
was
Because with,
the cool, hip thing to do on the weekend.
No, obviously. She invited
yeah,
like people to the White House and they were just like, let's have a seance.
well, with the Civil War and stuff, there's so many people had died that it left everybody in a state of grief that they were so determined to be able to talk or see their loved ones again. So that's how you got a lot of people taking advantage of a lot of people. You'd get a lot of seances and things like that. You'd see quite a lot of stories at that point, starting right after the Civil War.
That's
I don't
interesting.
necessarily think that holding a seance would have brought something to kill Abraham Lincoln.
I don't know. Maybe it just something was present there that they were unaware of. Apparently she did it quite often where she would hold these very big seances in the White House.
I guess in my head, just because you hold a seance doesn't mean something will turn up.
No.
I
But
think
there are
there,
cases of maybe something won't show up, but sometimes something does. And I think that we'll deep dive into seances in another episode, as well as dreams, because we're just scratching the surface of dreams and seances and all that kind of stuff right now.
yeah, I was gonna say, since you're a lucid dreamer as well, definitely test out trying to look in a mirror while you're lucid dreaming.
Oh god, that might send me to the back rooms.
Oh my God.
So
No, thank you.
I have, and I feel like, or I've tried, I should say. I feel like whenever I am lucid dreaming and I'm purposely doing the things that I know that the dream world doesn't want you to do, interrupting you trying to look at yourself is one of them.
I heard you're not supposed to ask like what time it is or like what day it is. Some time related thing
Yeah.
you're not supposed to ask.
You're also not supposed to say that it's a dream. Out loud, at least. But we'll, again, go back into dream
Well,
world later.
we should have a whole episode on dreams and premonition dreams and lucid dreaming and stuff like that.
Just dreams. Dreams are so good. Okay.
Oh, I'm happy to. I have a lot of like messed up dreams I'd love to talk about.
We should do a special episode of messed up dreams we've all had.
Yes. It just reminds me of the time that we were in the hotel room and our friend and my husband were sitting on the couch and you and I, Claudia, were just talking about our dreams, our wildly messed up dreams, and them just staring at us like, what the fuck?
Like, you just dream this every night, and we're just like, yeah,
Like, yeah.
you
Don't you?
you don't have these type of dreams. I think it drives me nuts because my husband does not dream. So he like, or let me rephrase it. I think everybody dreams, not everybody remembers their dreams, right?
Hmm.
And so like he doesn't remember, and so I'm like, what is it like to wake up and not have this whole other world that you just came from?
Yeah, because I've had a lot of dreams where I wake up the next day and it's ruined my whole mood for hours until I can fully tell myself it was just a dream. You need to get the hell over it because it's not real. It's just something your brain made up.
Right? But going back to this idea of doppelgangers and seeing your double out and about, um, there's I kind of touched on it earlier about how there's like 7 different versions of you walking around the earth that you might meet. But back in 1999, there was a French Canadian photographer, Francois Brunel, and he began photographing an ongoing series called I'm Not a Lookalike. And essentially, he's going around and finding doubles and taking their photos and does this for, years. I think it might even still be ongoing. But the point is, a molecular geneticist based out of Carreras Leukemia Research Institute in Spain, Manuel Esteller, um, found out about his work and gave him a call. Brunel thought he was crazy. Like scientists don't usually call artists, right? They're not. And even crazier, he's like, let me get into contact with all the people you've photographed. I want to genetically test them. I want to know about all of the similarities on why they look alike, even though they're not actually related and live on different parts of the world. And they did. And so for about 4 years, he started compiling data with his team and finally published his findings in 2022. And so, what they found after swabbing all of these people and looking at their data and trying to like really own in on the people that looked most similar by using facial recognition technology and being as objective as possible, they wound up finding the genome sequences the doppelgangers had were really similar. Um, and obviously, like we're all really similar. I think we share like 99% of our DNA with each other, just as humans, right? But there's this idea that like even though they share um, like their epigenomes, which are like the chemical changes to DNA and how it's expressed, their microbiomes would be completely different, and that's how like they could tell like what parts were similar, what parts were different, um, and explaining like the bone structure and stuff. So essentially, there's only so many ways to make the human face, and so there's gonna be somebody that looks like you out there no matter what.
I mean, if you want to believe in the Bible, we're supposed to be coming from two people, and there's only so many ways that you can change your face. But yeah, I can see that with genetics and different traits, and I can see how after some time you're gonna run into somebody who looks like you.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
What I thought was
Uh,
interesting within their study, they kind of go on, and I'm kind of giving cliff notes, obviously, of this thing, but there was some of the scientists were interested on like, if you look the same, are you treated the same? Like, would you have a similar personality because of how you've been treated based off your appearance? And they found that that was not true because there's also this idea of like your environment, of like
yeah.
where you grow up, beauty will be viewed differently, that.
Hmm.
My lovely dog is going outside.
That's what
Okay.
I thought. I was like, what is that?
I have all sorts of sound effects today.
Yeah, you
But
got
yeah,
a soundboard.
but yes,
That's,
I don't know. What do you think?
I get that there's just so many people in the world that, yeah, some people are going to look like you. But I want to say that I guess you could use the word doppelganger for it. But when I hear doppelganger, I think of an entity more than like someone who looks like you, like a human, another human that looks like you.
Hmm. I
Because
agree.
I'm not worried about other people looking like me. I'm worried about something that looks exactly like me that's trying to be me. And that's what I think about when I hear the word doppelganger.
You think of a more nefarious option.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that too. However, uh, I mean nowadays, doppelganger is just synonymous is just synonymous with just something or somebody having similar traits or whatever to you.
Uh, Before I dive into the Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest, is there anything else we'd like to discuss?
Um, I was just gonna briefly talk about because it's kind of a bummer. There's a medical syndrome called a syndrome of subjective doubles. It's just where it's a syndrome where typically it's associated with bipolar or schizophrenia, where either you believe somebody's been replaced by a doppelganger, or maybe you've been replaced by a doppelganger in some sort of way, which could be an explanation for some things where people are explaining their run ins with doppelgangers. However, it is a very rare syndrome for people to have. So just thought we'd bring that up because um, it is out there. I mean, we're not going to pretend that it's sunshine and rainbows because unfortunately mental illness is still a thing that a lot of people suffer with. When I was looking up doppelgangers, I came across this article that talks about, what's his name? Adam Golub. He's a professor of American Studies at Cal State Fullerton. He explores how the concept of the doppelganger has evolved in the digital age. His research examines the rise of digital doubles, particularly the curated ones of the online personas that we create for ourselves. He explains that when we scroll through social media feeds, um, will filled with highlight reels of other people. It's usually a curated slew of pictures or just events that happen that usually shine a positive light on that person or others, which does can affect other people in thinking, well, it can give you kind of a personality like double look, like who is the real me. There's the you show on social media, there's the you that you are behind that wall.
So he's suggesting that a lot of, especially influencers, create their own doppelganger by being someone online versus how they are in real life.
Exactly, so we've all kind of created a doppelganger in this digital age with social media.
But I kind of view the social media aspect being like the same as actors, where you associate like this was the evil villain, and even though they obviously play other roles, you still view them as the evil villain of whatever. And
Hmm.
sometimes that even becomes a bit of an inception when you Google, like, say, the villainous killer that actually exists in real life because it's based off of a true crime, like kind of serial killer aspect. But instead of like the actual killer, it's the photo of the actor.
Hmm.
And then it goes on to people that don't know that this is the actor literally reposting it and saying things about like this person is so and so, and it's like, well, no, that's this other guy, but you don't know that. And now in anybody's head who doesn't know who this actor is now their doppelganger who they've chosen to play for
Yeah, I
monetary
feel
reasons,
like
obviously.
I don't know if I would identified social media as a doppelganger, but I definitely see it more like a persona thing where you create just different personas for different, like, obviously influencers create personas that will sell, or if you're an actor, you create a persona which gives you fans, something like that.
I think they all tell a story. I don't
Yeah,
necessarily view it as creating to make money or creating to
I
like
believe they do.
like that. I think that's a byproduct. I think ultimately you're selling a story, the story of that serial killer, the story of a rich person that lives in a fancy home, even if that's not true, right? Like, well, um, whatever that is the story you're telling that gets whatever else. And if it's not true to who you actually are, that's where there's going to be like conflict. But then there's also, with social media and the rise of artificial intelligence, there's also this idea of like deep fakes, which I would consider a doppelganger as well.
Mm-hmm.
um, and and not just deep fakes of like saying someone taking my full image and recreating it for some other purpose, because it could be bad, could be good, I don't know. Mostly just gives me heebie jeebies to think that someone would want to recreate me for any reason, because why me? But also this like idea of uh, even like just taking someone's art form and stealing it and then saying that I created this, but like you just stole this person's techniques or style to
Yeah,
claim
that
it as your
reminds
own.
me of
And that's, go ahead.
sorry. It reminds me of have you guys seen Ariana Grande's doppelganger?
Yes,
Yep.
I
that
find
is.
that incredibly creepy and disheartening because this person tries her very best to look exactly like her no matter what style she changes to.
Mhm.
But I'm like, you're not her because you didn't build the image that she has. So why would you want to look like her?
Yeah, I know there's
Even
also somebody out there that's like a doppelganger for Taylor Swift too. Looks exactly like her, and it's
Mhm.
really unsettling.
And as we go into this idea of doppelgangers with celebrities, the Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest. Did anybody see it on TikTok? Do you know what I'm
no,
talking
I
about?
didn't.
Okay. Should I pause and have you watch it, or should I just tell you? How would you like to do this?
Tell us, Claudia, tell
All
us.
right. So essentially, it's New York City. We love New York City because they like to make random posters of random things that people are going to go do in the park, and everyone runs to cheer them on and participate. And this includes things like I'm going to eat a bucket of cheese balls, and I'm going to go and drink a jug of milk, and people show up. And I love that about their
Hmm.
community. But anyway, they decided Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest. So hundreds of people in droves showed up, and Timothy Chalamet himself appears. And people are like, "Wow, you really look like it," in a
Wow.
sea of him. And so it kind of brings this question of like, is this in a sea of somebody who looks just like you, or like, are they like you? It goes back to this idea of like where you grew up. Does that affect it? Are they going to be as charismatic as you? Are they going to be as witty? I don't know, like depending on how you want to describe yourself.
Yeah,
As
I'd say
silly.
that goes back to the comment where I said like she wants to be Ariana Grande, but she personality wise they are two different people. So I think even though you look like maybe 10 other people, you're not always personality wise going to be that person. You have different completely different lives.
Oh,
But
we talked about it earlier. We've all mentioned people saying we look like somebody, but none of us have actually met somebody that looks like us, right?
no, I've never met anyone that looks like me.
The closest I have is my aunt. If you look at pictures of us around the same age, we look exactly alike.
That's genetics though.
But yeah, that
Hmm.
is genetics.
That's how genetics
That's the
look.
closest
You
thing I got to
you
that. A
look
whole
just
stranger,
like
no.
all the people that loved each other before you.
So I wanted to talk about a little bit of how I found out what doppelgangers were because to my knowledge, I didn't really know what doppelgangers were until an episode of Ghost Adventures when they're at Waverly Hills Sanctuary, which I know, which if you haven't actually heard of this place, it's crazy. A lot of like thousands of people have died in this hospital of tuberculosis. So of
It's
course,
always a
being
tuberculosis
yeah,
place, right?
it was a big
It's
problem.
never cholera. I'm just kidding.
Because what's
Do you think in like 100 years we'll be like from COVID? Like that'll be the
It,
podcast.
oh my
I don't think
god,
I don't see. The
ghosts with
only thing
masks.
is, like, yeah, I was like, ghosts with masks. Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
See, the only thing that's different nowadays is like when you were sick, you got to be sick in your homes or on the street. Back then, they were like, "You're sick. We're shipping you off somewhere. Like, we don't want you here." So
But you
that's
still get.
why this happened.
I was gonna say you still kind of get shipped off if you're really sick.
Yeah.
But hospitals still exist.
Well, but
It's not like hospital. You know what I mean?
I guess,
Hospice.
but back then they were just like, you know what's a good idea? Everyone who's really sick, ship them off there, and they'll get better. Which that was a plan for them to get better, but thousands of them did not get better. So, anyways, Zach, Nick, and Eren, which those are those guys' names, everyone knows who they are. They're investigating the building, and while they're running, Eren goes off on his own and he's recording, and he's talking to someone, and then he meets up back with the group and he's like, "Wait, how are you here, Nick?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I just saw you down the hall. I was talking to you."
Ooh, I
And
was talking to you.
yeah,
No.
and Nick's like, "What are you talking about? Like, I was over here." And on the cameras, they're in two different locations. So they're like, could it have been a doppelganger? So they going back, before they investigate, the people who actually own the sanctuary say that investigators have it's common to see a doppelganger of yourself when you go investigate this place.
I don't want to
So
go there.
So they
yeah,
have wraiths,
I
from
don't
what I
know.
learned.
Ooh.
Or no, because that's only if you're gonna die. Sorry,
That's
let me
like-
go back.
that's
So
like
it's gotta be
death.
something else then.
So like after this episode, I had to do a little research because I was like, "That's crazy. What does that mean?" And then of course, when I was looking it up, and in the episode, they're like, "Well, seeing your doppelganger is a bad omen, and it's considered a bad sign of death and stuff like that." They ghost adventured it, made it
Mhm.
seem all like superstitious and stuff. They said that seeing your doppelganger, just you could just have like streaks of bad luck and blah blah blah. And but when I kept like researching doppelgangers, and as of after today, it seems like a lot of people are just mistaking normal humans for doppelgangers. So I don't know about the superstitious side, but it also doesn't explain how he saw somebody but it wasn't him. So I don't know if that would be called a doppelganger. Is that what a doppelganger does?
I think this goes back to the idea that the first introduction to, as far as how we've been viewing it within this episode in the context of literary to psychiatric form of doppelganger versus what existed pre, I guess, Victorian era,
Mm-hmm.
which would be any version of a double, any version of the body double, which we kind of mentioned other
Mhm.
versions of that. And I feel like that might exist in the realm of other versions of something that could be considered a doppelganger, but could also be called something else within a culture.
This whole thing that you're talking about with Ghost Adventures reminds me of something that happened right after we moved to San Diego.
Ooh.
It was the first night I was sleeping in our house when we first moved out in this area. It's me and the kids sleeping in the bed, and I see my son kind of standing in the corner, back facing me. And I was like, "What are you doing? Come back to bed." Um, but as I was saying that, I looked down, and my son was sleeping right next to me.
Stop
Ooh.
it.
And yeah, so that freaking happened. I'm hoping it was like a weird, like I was half asleep and I was seeing things, but I felt it get into the bed. Whatever it was.
Stop it.
Oh.
No.
I'd like
I
I'd
would
like to
have-
just I'd like to say you have 2 kids, and maybe it was the other one.
No, because they were both next to me.
No.
Was it the dog? The cat?
See, for me, like that, the superstitious part of these doppelgangers is scary because I'm just like, what is that? Like, what are they?
They're mole people that live in the
Mole
sewers.
people.
Right? That's another concept of a doppelganger.
Mhm.
Like in This Is Us. Or no, not This Is Us. That's a completely different.
What?
Sorry. This goes back to I get names confused for films. We talked about this before. Could you imagine? Oh yeah, I love that film
Like
by
Cabin in the
Jordan Peele.
Woods, Lake
Cabin in the
House.
Fail. This is what happens when we go off script. I have to like pause and be like, wait, no, not that. Let me remember
Just kidding. That's not what I meant.
us.
Yes,
With
us.
Lupita Nyong'o. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I was trying to say. I don't know where I was going anymore, so good luck with that.
Ah.
Mole people, yeah.
Mole people who want to be people.
Who want to take your life.
Or was it? What are those other creatures that people say that look like people? Lizard people. It's lizard people.
Oh, yeah. That's what they say all politicians are, lizard people.
Lizard
Yeah.
people.
I mean, with this election, yeah. We're
Lizards.
recording this on election day, so we don't know what the results are. But when this comes out, we'll know.
That they're lizards.
I just picture like the bodysuits.
I just picture like
the
whoever wins just like
a very
busting,
obvious
like
zipper on the
busting off
back.
their human
Yep.
suit, being like the lizards.
Something out of Doctor Who.
It is very Doctor Who-esque. Oh my gosh.
In all, to end it off, your personal theories. What do you guys think? What is your end result of these doppelgangers?
I'm gonna hold to. I don't necessarily currently view it as a bad omen. I do think you shared some premonitions that some people had. I think a premonition is different from the doppelganger. You think of the doppelganger just being someone who looks like you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always heard him as like a premonition of something to come, or like a fetch. But personally, I wouldn't want to see myself coming for myself when I die. Like, can I see Pedro Pascal?
Oh yeah, thank you.
You're like, please don't doppelgang me, doppelgang him.
Yes.
I'd like a little Pedrito
Please.
in a super cute little Grim Reaper fit, maybe cowboy
Him.
style, with a little bolo tie.
Oh,
Listen,
good.
if we're gonna build them how we want, he doesn't need a little. What do they call the stick?
A scythe?
Scythe?
He doesn't
The
need a scythe.
stick.
I couldn't think of the word.
It was
He
just
doesn't
fun
need a
watching you do
scythe.
those hand motions.
Yeah, the stick.
The stick. It did not look like you were trying to mimic a scythe.
Yeah, I would think like a swinging motion would be a scythe.
I did. Okay, you know what?
Oh,
Let's
you
stop.
didn't.
Good. We're done with
Very
hand
naughty,
motion.
naughty.
Well, I'm sure glad we don't visually record these right now.
A scythe.
Oh, you can't even finish my sentence. I can't even breathe.
Sorry, we love you.
All right, I just wanted to end off that episode with that, but I guess we talked about all we think we know. If any of you know any more stories about doppelgangers, especially superstitious ones, kind of interested to know what exactly those could be. For people who see their doppelganger in these haunted location, what that means.
Yeah, have you seen your doppelganger? Have you seen somebody's doppelganger?
Have you seen more than one? Because 7 of you are out there.
Yes. We're gonna have to post pictures of ourselves, and if we look alike, I guess we all have to have a party. I don't know.
You know what kind of party?
Wait, you're going to invite them into your home?
Well,
We're
if
gonna
they're
have a
humans,
lizard
maybe.
party.
Yeah, lizard party.
Maybe
Yeah.
you make me think that's
Heat
a
lamps
really
for everybody.
easy costume. Heat lamps. Oh my gosh. I know you meant heat lamps, but I pictured the little like cramping hot bottle things.
Oh yeah.
You just get one at the door as you walk in.
Like for a
Hello,
hamster.
welcome.
Here's your heating pad.
Here's your heating pad.
Well, the
We have
crickets will be
electric
served in
blankets on
20
the
minutes.
couch.
Yes. Crickets for everybody. And if you're feeling real fancy, those like big fat worms they give.
Yum.
And some fruit for the fruit eaters. Oh
We
my
used to
gosh.
go out and pick dandelions to feed to my grandparents' bearded dragon.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, if I was a lizard, I think I'd want to be a bearded dragon.
If I was a lizard, I'd want to be a kimono dragon.
Hell yeah.
And this is how we know we're friends, because we already have thought of this.
What kind of lizard we'd want to be?
It's very specific, although Cheyenne has not listed her dragon yet.
My dragon?
I mean, your lizard.
I love me a bearded dragon. I grew up with them, so I just think they're adorable. Granted, I love reptiles, so all of the above.
All right, before we keep talking about lizards, let's go ahead and end this episode. What about lizards?
This has been Geeky Ghouls with lizards.
Yeah.
Join us next week as we discuss lizards and their delicious
Snacks.
dinner routines.
Yummy crickets.
We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to our podcast.
For more ghoulish fun, connect with us on social media. Geeky Ghouls or Geeky Ghouls Podcast.
Want more Geeky Ghouls? Visit our Substack for behind-the-scenes content, episode recaps, teasers, movie reviews, and more.
We'd love to hear your suggestions for future episodes. Share your fan art and overall comments about this week's topic.
You can also join our Geeky Coven on Patreon and unlock exclusive content and perks. Your support means the world to us.
Catch us on the next episode of Geeky Ghouls.